Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Welcome to another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast. Today, we're going to talk about the Week 14 starts and sits. We're going to go over each game. I'm going to let you know which ones are going to be fantasy graveyards, which ones are going to be fantasy blowouts, and most importantly, which ones are going to be fantasy gold mines. It's a big week. We're all playing for the playoffs. Let's check it out. Here we go. Right.
Listen up. It's time for the Fantasy Maverick podcast, starring the guy who's going to help you win that fantasy championship, Jimmy Maverick.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. And hey, if you could please give me a thumbs up, leave a comment, share this with your friends, and of course, subscribe. All those things help me with the YouTube algorithm, and I do very much appreciate it. Thank you, and now on to the show. Hello there, friends. It's Jimmy Maverick. Thank you for joining us for another edition of the Fantasy Maverick podcast. The 2021 season drawing to a close. This is probably the last week of your season. Maybe you've already locked in your playoff position, but I'm sure you've got teams fighting as well. I certainly do. I got a team that's currently in sixth place for the sixth postseason spot. I need to win this weekend, otherwise I could get pushed out. That would be annoying because it's a good team. It's a team that scored the third most points overall in this league, so I want to see how far they can go. But great, good news also. Good news, I've got, I have in my tournament leagues, I had one team, one of those three, make it to the fantasy playoffs, which was week 13, and I advanced. So I advanced to the championship game. Big money game right there, $1,500 on the line. My projections look excellent for this weekend. Although I got to say, I'm very concerned about Tyreek Hill, who only got me 4 points last week in a PPR league. That's not acceptable. He can't do that to me again. Not on this week. Not with so much on the line. I need him to come through for me. But we'll wait and see what happens with that. So I would love it. That's the tournament. That's these guys. That's these guys right here. I want another one. That's what I want. So hopefully we will make it happen. Let's get right into the games. Now, as you know, I divide my games into three types of games. There's fantasy graveyards, where there's very limited fantasy value, and the players playing are typically going to not do great for you for fantasy football. We've got the fantasy blowouts, where it's going to be great for one team, bad for the other. And then we got the fantasy gold mines, which is going to be high-scoring games, good fantasy opportunities on both sides of the ball. And so we'll go through all those. But let's start with the fantasy graveyards. And we've got a lot this week. We've got five games this week. I do qualify as graveyard games. And so, again, limited scoring opportunities on these teams. Let's just get right to it. The first game I want to talk about, Sunday early game, we got the Jaguars at the Titans. Titans are currently favored by 9. Over-under is 43.5 points, which seems a little high. I think it seems a little bit high. Obviously, you got the Jags, which is one of my least favorite teams in the NFL. The only person that I think you can even trust on this team right now is James Robinson. And even then, it's a huge risk. Look what happened last week. He fumbled the ball. They benched him for Carlos Hyde. And, of course, they got their butts kicked anyway, so it doesn't really matter. And then as far as the wide receivers go, the Jaguars, man, I can't trust any of them. I don't want to start any of them. I think Melvin Gordon got like 1.1 points last week. One catch for 11 yards. I think that's what he got. So just totally avoid him. Just bench him. That's all you can do. Now for the Titans, again, very hard to recommend anyone from this team as well. There's just, you've got a lot of backups. There's a lot of injuries. I did see that Julio Jones is designated to return from IR. That does not mean he is playing. But even if he does play, I would not be willing to start him. We obviously, it has been a lost season for Julio. He's an older receiver. I don't like to deal with those players for fantasy football. I drafted him in one of my leagues. I regretted it from the instant I did it. And, of course, it didn't pan out. Yet again, second year in a row. Big surprise. But let's see here. I think the only player that I would be comfortable starting on this team would be Nick Westbrook, Akeen, as he gets a top 7 matchup. So it's a good matchup for him. I don't think I could start Ryan Tannehill. Again, not enough offensive capabilities to give him a strong enough line to play. And then as far as the backfield, you got a total question mark now. Jeremy McNichols, it looks like he's going to be able to play. So now we got a 3-person backfield. Obviously, Dontrell Hillard and Donta Foreman were very good last week, and I think you could place them in your flex this week and just hope for the best. Like I said, should be a positive game script for Titans. That should be good for the running backs. They should get a lot of volume, and they should be decent for fantasy. Now, the next graveyard game is going to be the Seahawks at the Texans, another Sunday early game. Right now, the Seahawks are favored by 7.5, over under 43.5 points. So again, low scoring projections here. And again, with the Seahawks, Russell Wilson, I can't trust him yet. I mean, he looked better last week, which was reassuring. But I just don't think I could trust to start him this week. I think if you've got better options, and I will be talking about some better streaming options, you'd be better going off with that. But Tyler Lockett has been pretty good since Russell Wilson has returned. So I'm comfortable with starting him. And Metcalf has been an utter disaster for like the past month or so. But he did get 8 targets last week. So I think that volume says that, okay, they are involving him in the game plan. They are going to target him. He just needs to pull down some catches, and he'll be productive for fantasy. So I'm okay with starting DK Metcalf despite how bad he's been. So go ahead and start him. Now, as far as the Texans go, I had been saying, you can start Brandon Cooks, but man, Brandon Cooks has just sucked every single week. You can't start anyone. There's nobody you can start on the Texans right now. And again, it's going to be a negative game script. Seahawks are going to win this game, and it's just everything on the Texans is terrible. It's just the worst. Next game, Saints at the Jets, Sunday early. Saints are currently favored by 5.5, over under 43. So again, we're talking really low scoring games here. As far as the Saints go, Taysom Hill, absolutely you can start him. The ground game, the rush yards, and the potential for rushing touchdowns that he offers more than offsets his shortcomings in the passing game, and also this team just isn't good through the air. It doesn't matter for Taysom Hill. He's absolutely a start. You can totally start him this week. And potentially Alvin Kamara is back this week. Now, if Kamara plays, I'm going to start him. I'm going to play him. But you got to manage your expectations about what he's going to do, because when he played with Taysom Hill last year, again, wasn't as involved in the passing game, and he was getting vultured at the goal line. So that really caps his ceiling. But I think he's going to obviously do enough for you to win this game, as it should be a positive game script, and he should get a lot of volume. But anyone else, I can't start anyone else on the Saints right now. And as far as the Jets go, the only player you can start on the Jets is Elijah Moore, who's been fantastic. That guy, it's amazing how good he is on such a bad team. But he is good. He is productive. He's getting tons of volume. You absolutely start him. But as far as anyone else goes, no. Anyone in that backfield? No. Don't do it. It's a mess. You're going to regret it if you do it. The next graveyard game, Falcons at the Panthers. Panthers currently favored by 2.5, over under 42.5 points. And with the Falcons, when you're talking about those Falcons players, listen to the Panthers defense. Top 5 against the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and top 10 against tight ends. So it's going to be a difficult week for them regardless. For me, Cordarrelle Patterson, Kyle Pitts, you can totally start them. They should be fine. And Russell Gage has gotten decent volume the past 3 weeks. He got 8 targets, 7 targets, 12 targets. So, but don't forget that the week before that, he got a 0 burger in week 10. So I'm okay with starting him in your flex, but it is at your own risk, and his floor, we've already seen it, is 0. So be careful. It's a really tough matchup, so I would avoid it if you can. On the Panthers side, you got DJ Moore, who actually looks like a great start this week, top 6 matchup, and obviously he has been getting targeted by Cam Newton, so that's good to see. And I think it's okay to start Chuba Hubbard as well. He gets a top 5 matchup. Just know Cam Newton is playing. Cam is going to vulture the goal line, but I think Chuba is a decent flex start this week. And again, great matchup, so he should be productive. The final graveyard game is going to be the Lions at the Broncos Sunday afternoon. Broncos currently favored by 7.5. Over-under is 42 points. Now, as far as the Broncos defense goes, right now they are top 11 against running backs. And Swift might be back. Obviously he's been dealing with an injury. So I'm guessing he's going to be back in some sort of limited capacity. If he is a go, I would not be inclined to start him this week. Also, and as far as Jamal Williams goes, I really would only be comfortable starting Jamal Williams if DeAndre Swift sits. So if Swift is set to play, I would not play Jamal Williams. But otherwise, you could play Jamal. I think he'll be okay. Hawkinson is facing a bottom 5 matchup, so very, very tough matchup. And he has been quite inconsistent over this past 4 games. 1 target, 8 targets, 3 targets, 8 targets. I hate that. It's my least favorite kind of fantasy player. Still, he is the number 3 tight end on the year. Last week, he got the touchdown. I think you have to consider him in every week start. And I am starting him in that championship game I'm playing at for the Fantasy Football Players Championship. So, Hawkinson, you need to come through for me. It's important. And that's it for the graveyard games. So, again, just low-scoring games, low fantasy potential for those teams. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't talk about the Broncos yet. What the heck's wrong with me, man? Okay, so as far as the Broncos go, Javonte Williams obviously had a breakout game last week. Melvin Gordon still dealing with an injury. So, and it is a top 4 matchup. So guess what? You're starting Javonte Williams. I think he's going to be great this week. Should be very, very productive for him. But as far as everyone else, it just sucks. The volume on the receivers is way too low to start anyone. Any one of the receivers and Noah Fant. Noah Fant, he's only gotten 4 targets a game in each of the past 2 weeks. Man, I'd sit him if you can, but obviously you might be in a situation where you need to start him, and he'll get a couple of catches. Maybe a touchdown. Hey, it's always a possibility. But I try to stay away from anyone receiving balls from Teddy Bridgewater this week. So now we got blowout games. So I only got 3 blowout games this week. So that means I believe we have 6 goldmine games. 5. We got 5 goldmine games. So those look really good. But for the blowouts, Cowboys at Washington, another Sunday early game. Cowboys favored by 4. The over and under is 48 points. And like I said, the only player on the Cowboys that I am not comfortable starting right now is Zeke. He's injured. Even if he's not on that injury report, he is having issues with that knee. It's not feeling good. He has been very ineffective the past couple of weeks. Tony Pollard has been great. So, again, but I don't like Tony Pollard either because, let's see here, he's dealing with a foot injury. And Washington, I'm sorry. I got a little bit, I was thinking about someone else there. But we got 2 players that are injured right now in this backfield. I think it's going to be a blowout, which means I think it's going to be a lot of volume for the passing game. And when you look at the Washington defense right now, Washington is number 1 for opposing quarterbacks, number 3 for opposing wide receivers. So Dak, Amari, CeeDee are all must starts. Gallup has been above 8 targets per week for the past 3 weeks, so he's also a start as well. I am less enthusiastic about Dalton Schultz, but he should be passable, middle-of-the-road matchup, and again, better volume than someone like Noah Fant. So go ahead and start him. Now for Washington, Gibson has been fantastic. Absolutely start him. And I do know that Terry McLaurin has been terrible. He's really been a huge disappointment. But top 10 matchup. His volume it concerns me. It's been very low. But I think as a flex play, I think you can totally start McLaurin this week. So he should be good. The next blowout game is going to be the Giants at the Chargers Sunday afternoon. Chargers favored by 10. Over-under is 44 points. That seems extremely low for me because I really think the Chargers are gonna blow this one out. As far as the Giants are concerned, the only player you can start is Saquon. It is a good matchup for him, and that's it. And all the receivers are injured. Daniel Jones, I think, is injured. Who else can you play on the Giants? That's it. But for the Chargers, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are both on the COVID list right now. Now, Allen is vaccinated, so there's a good chance he plays if he can get 2 negative COVID tests before Sunday. However, Mike Williams is unvaccinated, so I expect him to be out at least this week and maybe longer. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with here. Watch the reports as to what's going on with those guys. But as far as right now, as far as we're concerned, they're both out. We need to see them activated off the COVID list. Austin Eckler gets a top 10 matchup. So absolutely, he's going to be a great start this week. Justin Herbert, also a solid start. I would sit everyone else. And of course, if both Allen and Williams are out this weekend, that is going to downgrade Justin Herbert. I might consider looking elsewhere if that actually happens. But I'm hopeful that Keenan Allen will be able to play at a minimum. He's as far as he's concerned. Final blowout game. Bears at the Packers. Sunday evening, Packers favored by 12, 43.5 over-under. For the Bears, David Montgomery remains the only must-start on this team. Darnell Mooney continues to get decent volume, and I think he's a good flex option. Middle-of-the-road matchup. He should be good this week. I know he was bad last week, but prior 2 or 3 weeks, he was really good, so I think he's good to start. For the Packers, no bad matchups here. So you got to start Rodgers. You got to start Devontae Adams. You got to start Aaron Jones. And I think you can also start A.J. Dillon, who's been excellent with Jones out. And I think they're still going to utilize him with high-value touches, especially around the goal line. So I like that. And then I also do like Marquez Valdes-Scantling. I think he's very intriguing as a flex option. He's got 9+ targets in each of the past 2 weeks, and it's a decent matchup. So I think if you're looking for someone for your flex spot, I think Marquez Valdes-Scantling is a decent choice. Now for goldmine games, the first one is the Thursday night game. Steelers at the Vikings. And again, Vikings are currently favored by 3.5. Over under 43.5 points, which really seems low to me. Because these teams both have a lot of offensive talent. And for the Steelers, I think Ben Roethlisberger is a decent streaming option this week. Top 6 matchup. And he was decent against Baltimore last week, which is a more imposing defense. So that was good to see. For Najee Harris, I would love to see Najee Harris have a breakout game. He's been very good this year. He is the running back 5. But he hasn't had any week where he's really just totally taking control and won you your week. And again, I've got him in my Fantasy Football Players Championship. So I would love for him to have a 40-point week. That would be lovely to see. Make it happen, Najee. Deontay Johnson, also in every week start. They both get decent matchups. Minnesota has given up the second most points to wide receivers. So I also think Chase Claypool is a start. My only concern right now is the tight end position. Freiermuth, who gets a bottom 10 matchup. I'm concerned about his usage. He's only gotten 4 targets a game over each of the past 2 games. I would try to sit him if you can. But let's see some blow-up games here from Najee and Deontay. I know it's asking a lot, especially with Roethlisberger as their quarterback, but you can always hope. For the Vikings, it's got to hurt, man, to lose to the only winless team in the NFL. But let's see how they bounce back. The receivers get a top 10 matchup. So Justin Jefferson and KJ Osborne both starts. Obviously, we got the situation. Thielen is out. Dalvin Cook is questionable to start, which I think is I think the coaches are blowing smoke. I don't know how there's any way that Dalvin Cook could take a full workload. And I think it's a trap. Don't start Dalvin Cook. Obviously, Alexander Mattison has been very good in relief of Cook, and I think they would be wise to let Cook heal. I know time's kind of running out for this team, but again, it doesn't do you any good to win this game and lose Dalvin Cook for the year. So hopefully they'll be smart about it. Obviously, I'm much more comfortable starting Alexander Mattison this week. I would not start Dalvin Cook. I just think he's too risky. He could be like, one hit and he's out. That's what it comes down to. The only player, on this side also, check this out, man. Steelers defense is top 10 against tight ends as well. So Tyler Conklin, also gets a very tough matchup. That makes me hesitant to want to start him. But anyway, he should get some decent volume. He's been getting better volume than Freemuth has. So I think you could probably start him if you need to. The next goldmine game, Raiders at the Chiefs, Sunday early. Chiefs favored by 10, over under 48 points. This should be a pretty decent game for fantasy. For the Raiders, Josh Jacobs gets a great matchup. Go ahead and start him. Hunter Renfrow has been red hot. He is facing a tough matchup, top 7 against the pass. But if Waller sits, you have to start him just because of the volume. He's just getting such great volume right now. Got to take advantage of that. Obviously, if Waller plays, I think you can play him. It's questionable as to if that will happen. But Derek Carr, he's back on my bench. There's just not enough offensive weapons to support him to be fantasy relevant right now. So don't do it. For the Chiefs, now here's the thing, man. The Chiefs, Raiders are top 6 against wide receivers. And, obviously Mahomes, who knows what's going on here? Mahomes has just been awful. And last week, the whole team, the whole offense sucked. I mean, it was just really bad. But you can't sit him. You can't sit Hill. You can't sit Mahomes. And you can't. And actually, I think Kelsey will have a nice bounce back. Top 2 matchup for Kelsey. So I think he will be totally fine. But I got to say, man, this is a make or break week for Mahomes. If he can't do it this week, I'm going to bench him. I mean, why put myself through that, for a lousy 13 points? I don't know how it's possible. I don't know what's going on with this offense. But hopefully he gets it together because I need Hill to have a big week this week. It's important. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, let's see here. It gets a top 3 matchup, so absolutely start him. He should be great. But I got to say, man, I'm very worried about Kansas City. Next goldmine game, Niners at the Bengals, Sunday afternoon. Bengals currently favored by 1, over under 48.5 points. This should be a really good game. As far as the Niners go, the only player with a bad matchup is Jimmy Garoppolo, but nobody starts Jimmy Garoppolo. He's just not fantasy worthy. But you got Debo dealing with a groin injury. Check his status during the week. He may play. If he does play, it's going to be risky because this is a soft tissue injury, can be very easily aggravated. Debo has a long history of injuries. So anyway, it just makes me concerned about starting him. I would sit him if you can. Kittle obviously had a massive week last week, 12 targets, huge spike week, 44 fantasy points, I think is what he got. Just absolutely amazing. He is a absolute start, but don't expect that to repeat. Prior 3 games for Kittle, 7 targets, 4 targets, 2 targets, and then 12. So very uneven in his usage, but I think he should be fine this week. Eli Mitchell is in concussion protocol, so I'm not sure he's going to be playing this week. So again, if he is cleared to play, I think he's good to go. But otherwise, this backfield is a real mess, very hard to figure out. I would not try to guess on who would take most of the work. I would stay away from the backfield if you can, if Eli Mitchell happens to sit. For the Bengals, Joe Burrow looks like a great streaming start. He gets a top 10 matchup. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, both great starts. No bad matchups here. Mixon, every week start. Good matchup for him, top 11. But Tyler Boyd has been too inconsistent for me to want to start him. Past 4 weeks, 2 targets, 8 targets, 2 targets, 7 targets. I don't play that game. Put him on your bench. Don't gamble your team on someone like Boyd coming through for you. You don't want to do that. You need your win. Let's see. We got the Bills Buccaneers on Sunday afternoon. Bucks currently favored by 3.5, over under 52.5 points. The Bills, obviously terrible week last week, but weather driven, really good defense in New England. The Bucks are not that. The weather will not be that, so I think they're going to bounce back pretty fine. Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs are both starts. And Dawson Knox gets a top 10 matchup. So I'm good with starting Dawson Knox this week. But Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders are sits until I see better volume out of those guys. Just don't trust them. Stay away from the backfield as well. Too much of a muddled mess. Don't even bother with it. But there should be some good fantasy points here from these players. And as far as the Bucs go, it does not matter how good the Buffalo defense is. They are top 6 against all fantasy positions. Quarterback, wide receiver, running back, tight end. It doesn't matter. You can totally start Brady, Fournette, Evans, Godwin, and most of all, Gronkowski, who's been killing it. I need him to kill it again. I'll let you guess why. But again, should be a really good fantasy game. Lots of good fantasy points. And then the final goldmine game, the Monday Night Football game, Rams at the Cardinals. Cardinals currently favored by 2.5, over under 52.5 points. And the Arizona defense is tough. They are tough against quarterbacks and they're tough against wide receivers. But I'm not going to sit Stafford. I'm not going to sit Kupp, of course. I think Van Jefferson is a flex option, but I would sit Odell until we see some more volume head his way. Gerald Henderson is off the injury list. It's a decent matchup, so I think he's good to go. I think he will be very productive. And then for the Cardinals, the Rams are top 10 against the quarterback and the running back position, but Kyler Murray, James Conner, I'm starting both of them. Edmonds might be back this week, but I will not start him until we see what kind of usage they're going to give him. Hopkins, solid start. But all the other receivers I would sit on Arizona because they're just not getting enough volume. So that's basically what it comes down to. Ertz only got 2 targets last week, but I am okay with starting him. He gets the best matchup on the offense, should have some high-value targets in the end zone, and hopefully he comes out with a good week. So that's it, man. So, hey, thank you for sticking it out and watching the whole thing. I do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, please give me a like and subscribe down there. And anyway, week 14, big week, man. This is it. Team has to make it or break it for the fantasy playoffs. Like I said, I got a team in 6th place for the last playoff spot. I need to win in order to secure my playoff spot. Got a nice matchup this week. I'm feeling very confident about this team. This team has scored very well over the past 2 weeks. So hopefully that will happen. But anyway, thank you very much for watching, and have yourself a great fantasy week, and we will talk again next week for the fantasy playoffs. Have a good one, everybody.